Former executive turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Connie is ridiculously dedicated to inspiring individuals to activate their power and live their dream as a lifestyle entrepreneur. It's time to sit down, lie down, or squat down and turn up the volume. Up or Out with Connie starts right now.
Well, hello and welcome to Activating the Power of Women, the podcast. I'm Connie Fife, transformational speaker, mentor, and coach for women. If you're here looking for inspiration and motivation and tools to excel in business, well, you have come to the right place. We have a phenomenal guest today, CEO of Brandthropologie, president of Sentiment, and author of WeCommerce, Billee Howard. Billee, welcome back to the show. I've been looking at your stuff, and it looks like since you've been here last, you got a lot of things going on. You have a new role with Sentiment. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly for you. So what exactly played out there? It looks like something really exciting.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me back. It's lovely to be here. I think the last time we spoke was around the time my book had been out for a little while. And right after that, I think IBM had come to me and asked me to be a futurist for them to help them better understand how to make Watson accessible to the creative side of marketing. And during that journey, you know, to be honest, when I first got there at one of their major events, I really wasn't seeing the connection because I'm not a deeply scientific marketer. Okay. A storyteller. I come from Corp Com and PR. So, you know, it took me a while to get my grounding. But when I dove into it, I actually found this study that was done by Kurt Vonnegut about 50 or so years ago, where he said that stories should be able to be fed into machines no different than shapes. So it occurred to me at that point that if that was the case, that we could figure out potentially how to use AI to infuse empathy and emotion into storytelling. While I was looking into that, there was a study that was done a couple of years ago that was written up in The Atlantic, where researchers set out to prove that idea, and they mapped the 6 most resonant narrative arcs in history on an XY axis, and they were actually able to draw an emotional and creative through line between Cinderella and the Old Testament. So what that said to us was there is a grounding of an idea there, and we actually submitted it to the IBM Storytellers with Tribeca Film Festival contest, just on a whim, while I was doing some things for IBM internally. And to make a long story short, even though they were on 2 totally separate tracks inside of IBM,
right,
not talking to the other, we actually made it to the finals of that contest.
Oh, wow.
And while we didn't win, because our solution, while it's a brand studio model originally, it has nothing, as you know, to do with the entertainment business. So the Tribeca Festival wasn't really interested in it for that, but it got a lot of attention at IBM. And at that point, you know, they said, how can we help to potentially turn this into a product? And they said, why don't you meet this new With Watson company, Sentiment, that's focused on emotional intelligence and using neurodata to really, for the first time, understand how to help emotions and brands come together to instigate people to act in specific ways and understand what makes people feel and act in certain ways. So we came together, and instead of just creating a product, we merged our firms together, and Brandthropologie became part of Sentiment. So we have 2 sides of the business, which is guided and self-guided. So either a straight SaaS solution around the idea of emotional analytics and a dashboard along those lines, or us and the solution on someone's behalf, man married with the machine. So we came to market and, you know, been figuring out a lot from the ground up since January, and we're super excited.
So I want to know more about the emotional intelligence of a machine. I guess the emotional intelligence of branding. I mean, it's really getting people to act and behave the way you want them to, but how does that all play in together with what you're doing?
Well, to take a quick step back, so the Watson piece is the AI and the machine learning. So that, think about it as once you figure out how to do something and you train the machine what to do, they just become smarter and smarter over time. So we have the best of that. And we also have access to all of Watson's social scraping. So all of their 120 social feeds. But what we have that nobody else has, which is where our patents lie, is we have what we call a store of human thought. So we've
Okay.
scanned 100 brains based off of a study that was done out of UC Berkeley called the WHO study, where we were able to develop an aggregate understanding of how people respond to different stimuli. So what that enables us to be able to do is basically serve as a brand's emotional GPS. So we can say today, this is the voxel level or the emotional address where your brand sits today. And this is the emotional address of where you need to be if you want to connect with active moms versus, let's call them millennial mavens, whatever those personas are. So we use those insights across what we've always done, which is the who. So understanding who you're trying to reach and what are their key emotional triggers. The what, which is how do you affect the language in a way that's going to instigate those emotional triggers.
Right.
And then the when, which is the contextual relevance. So how do you align and make sure that you're optimizing across that whole process using emotion as a currency of business?
In branding and marketing, of course, I mean, it's always been around the emotion, or it's come to, you need to bring it around the emotion. But I'm really intrigued, especially like when you said that you have to train the brain. Or train the brain of the machine. Like, how does that really work? Like, how could you go into a little bit more in depth about that and how that really works?
Well,
about the whole thing.
I'm not a neuroscientist, and I've become a bit of a tech buff over the recent months. I'll do my best, but I mean, basically, what it is a series of algorithms that are tied to this neuro database.
Okay.
Nobody else has. So once you understand how to replicate what's in the database of how people's emotions lie in response to different cues,
where those triggers are.
Right. So once you've figured out the science behind that, when you align that with the power of AI and machine learning, you set yourself on a course of continuing to become more and more intelligent on those topics over time.
Okay.
Also, we have the ability to continue to add brain scans to the database. So when you come at it from the power of the machine to take this information and supercharge it, and you use the man side of the science that nobody else has, it creates quite a compelling offering because everyone's been talking, listen, it's not a secret that you need to have emotional resonance in advertising, but being able to understand how to hit on specific emotions that are going to instigate specific behaviors is something we've never seen before. As is this idea that people have been talking about neuroscience for the last decade. Eye tracking and things like that are not particularly accurate, nor is it that deeply informative to say, let's look at sentiment analysis just through the lens of positive, negative, neutral. That doesn't really tell you that much.
Yeah, I've always been intrigued by the neuroscience piece of it. So I want to work with you when I grow up. So where does that creativity and the technology then, where should they meet in this new environment?
Well, it's really interesting. That's a great question because I think that that's what the key to success is for any marketer, storyteller, advertiser is to figure out how and where creativity and technology should meet. And, there's been a lot of debate and dialogue over the last 2 years that, creativity is taking a back seat and everything needs to be about the science and you got to forget about the art. And I don't believe that. I believe that everything that needs to be done today, you need to take advantage of the data that's available.
Right.
That's something that a lot of people don't do. They claim that they have all of these copious amounts of data, but they don't necessarily use it. So if you can figure out how to extrapolate insights from the data that you have and from tools like ours to optimize your ability to tell better stories to the right people at the right time, that to me is the holy grail. And really difficult in this marketplace is that a lot of people are talking about a lot of things that sound the same and certain things are becoming diluted and ubiquitous. But if you really, and that's very off-putting at times, but if you really listen and understand what I'm saying and the fact that, what our whole thing is how do you make all of these things accessible to people so that they can do their job better and be better at connecting with their customers, that's really what we're about.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly. I mean, right, because they talk about if you have the data, like data is king. But like you said, if you're not using that data over here and bringing that all together in that new environment of creating that stimuli for people to act and behave that you want them to, or, become your next clients, that's what's really critical and really important. But how do you get beyond then? And you said the one point about the marketplace is getting so saturated with a lot of the same messages. So what's your advice for an organization, whether they're small or large, to really focus and streamline that message so they do stand out in this marketplace? Because it is challenging to do that.
Well, I think that the whole way of standing out today, whether you're big or small, needs to start with an authentic brand purpose. And, this idea of brand purpose has been bandied about a bit for the last several years, but there are very few people who really understand what brand purpose means, and that it's not a cosmetic function, but if embraced correctly, should be a centerpiece of business and brand strategy. And using the type of tools that I'm talking about, whether it's ours or others, to really make sure you nail the brand purpose. You want to make sure that it's meaningful inside your organization so that you build the strength and the culture and the brand ambassadors inside before you then halo outside. Yeah. But I believe that in order to stand out, no matter who you are or what it is that you do, you got to nail that before you do anything at all.
I totally agree with you about the authenticity. And I know even for me, I've been doing this, I've been at this for 12 years now. And 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I made not a switch, but I really added and focused and drilling down into working with women, professional women. Yes. And my true authenticity came out with that more so than I ever thought it would. And it's just made such a huge, huge difference in my business. Because it is real, because it's authentic, it's who I am. And even for me, it just gives me so much more power internally to know that I am helping people the way that really makes me feel good, to the point where I've had it said to me many times that this isn't a business for me, this is my life's work. And that's what really made a difference.
No, I totally understand that. That's how I felt about my book. But more specifically to what we're talking about today, our founder and CEO, Micah Brown, he's an African-American man who's been in tech and media and finance. And the root of sentiment is about removing bias from algorithms, which has a much greater impact on society besides the lens that we're focused on, which is marketing and advertising.
Right.
Now, but his passion to remove bias from algorithms through the use of neurodata obviously has wide-scale application for society. So, being in an organization that was founded on such a grander purpose than just, not to be diminutive, but then just, reimagining an industry is certainly powerful for me. And I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple questions I'd like you to finish. So the first one is, I am an unstoppable woman because...
I'm an unstoppable woman because I never take no for an answer. And my favorite thing to say is, when I have my yacht one day, it will be named Relentless. So,
I know she's unstoppable.
So that would be my answer for that one.
Okay. Well, mine's a Corvette.
My mother had 2 Corvettes, and she used to drive and zip up to pick me up, and nobody could take her eyes off of us. Let's just.
Well, I guess we have our thing. Yeah, mine's the Corvette. So the next one is, I believe.
Can you narrow that down a little bit? I believe about what? In what area?
So for you to finish the sentence, whether personally, professionally, just to complete the sentence, I believe the sky is blue.
No, I know. I believe that anyone can achieve anything if they believe in themselves and they do not take no for an answer. A lot of people say that they haven't been able to do X, Y, and Z because of certain outside circumstances. And I don't buy into that. I don't believe that. I don't care what anyone's life circumstances are. I've had a variety of different significant challenges in my life, as I'm sure you have. Everybody has bumps along the way at some point in their life. For me, it was front-loaded in my earlier life. For others, it'll be later in life. But the reality is that if you believe in yourself and you believe in achieving a goal, it shouldn't make any difference about what's happened to you or where you're trying to achieve that goal, because it's up to you to make that happen and not take no for an answer.
Amen.
I'm glad I had a second chance at that one.
So what do you think, or what do you believe is the world's greatest wound?
wound.
Yes.
Currently, I believe the world's greatest wound, and this is not a political statement about our president, but I think instigated and inculcated a culture of rage, nastiness, and generally being mean. And I think that that's had widespread implications that go way beyond Republican versus Democrat.
Yeah.
You see people there's no filter for anyone anymore because the person running our country is insulting people on Twitter at all hours of the night. So again, it has less to do with Trump and more to do with what he has incited as a result of his presidency, which is a culture of fear that is propelled forward by being mean and nasty.
Yeah.
I think that's very sad.
It is. It's really sad. We have forgotten how to treat each other with dignity and respect.
Yes, it's sad. And I think that everything is circular a lot of the time. And I think that one of the reasons that brands are stepping up so aggressively and brand leadership is taking on such an increased sense of moral responsibility is because they're trying to potentially fix some of the, void that's been left by what's going on in government. But I think that most people, by and large, are offended by the current environment. And it's difficult to understand how to get out of, what seems to be what do you call that? A negative...
the negative spiral that's happening. Yeah. How do we bring that back? Yeah. Totally agree with you there. So what's that moment in your life that really had the greatest impact on you?
The moment in my life that had the greatest impact on me, well, I guess it was when I decided to leave Weber Shandwick and agency life. I was very successful in PR at a very young age at the top PR firm in the world, but I hit a wall. I was only 37, but I couldn't imagine doing that every day for the rest of my life. And it was very, very difficult to walk away from it. I've been there for almost 15 years and I just couldn't do it anymore because something I loved became something that I was starting to dread. So peeling off the Band-Aid and starting all over from scratch in a, totally different space, writing a book, getting more into marketing, jumping into technology, it's made me a much better professional. It's made me a much better person. It's made me a much happier person. But the journey of going from the top to the bottom and then starting again, that was a very big pivot point for me. That was not easy, but it was a very significant one for my present and my future.
So, and I know you're extremely busy. So how do you go about making or balancing of making things happen or just letting some things go? How do you balance that?
Well, I think sometimes people overthink things. Sometimes my bluntness works to my advantage and sometimes it works to my disadvantage. In this situation, it works to my advantage because I'm the type of person who, if I go into a store, I say, I want this and I don't want that. And I go on instinct and I go with, making certain things a priority and going where my passion and instinct takes me and having the courage to let things that don't fall into those two categories go. I'm not afraid to do less as opposed to more because I think if you say that you're going to be great at everything, you wind up great at nothing. So I think that, figuring out what that balance is tricky, but you must do that.
Yeah, it could be scary. Even when I decided I'm going to just jump in and take my program and do it for women, it was scary because I'm thinking, okay, I'm losing half the population. Does that mean I'm losing half business? Right now, I still have more male clients than I do women. So,
and look at how successful you are. You told me everything just continues to grow and grow every time I talk to you. And that's because you have the courage to figure out what's next.
To figure out what's next. We know sometimes you have to pivot, you have to adjust, and it just keeps going. So what's that one chance that you would suggest to all women that they should take? What is that chance that women should take?
What I like to say is some people think that being comfortable is a good thing when I think that's the worst possible place that someone can be. Because if you allow yourself to get to a place of being comfortable, you become, I think, complacent, and complacency is a recipe for being mediocre. So my suggestion is to push yourself to a point of discomfort because it's when you are truly uncomfortable that you are the closest to greatness.
And that's when you will make things happen. So true, so true. So you talked about a giveaway, an emotional intelligence assessment.
Yes, anyone can visit our website, sentiment.io, and, check us out, and then reach out to me, and we'll be happy to do a quick overview of your brand and give you some insights into what your emotional intelligence score is potentially right now. And how you might improve going forward.
Mm-hmm. There's always room for improvement, that's for sure. And that's sentiment.io. So they could find all of your contact information there.
Yes, and you can also visit brandthropologie.com if you want to learn a little bit more about how it's applied and about me.
Definitely want to do that. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. That's all the time we have. You're always awesome. Love.
Fast.
I know, it always goes so fast. Again, I want to thank you for being here. Do you have any parting words that you want to leave with our listeners?
Well, I always enjoy our conversations, and I think that's because we're very like-minded, and we have the courage to take risks, to do new things. And, I hope that people can learn from both of our stories, because there's never been a greater time to be in business, and there's never been a greater time to be a woman in business. So hopefully your listeners will take value from this conversation.
Absolutely. And Billee Howard, thank you for being here with us today and sharing your message just to keep on going. And hey, you never know, that yacht will be out there someday. We'll be cruising around.
Here's to
hoping. Well, this is Connie Fife, your Unstoppable Diva. Until next time, activate your power and turn your passion into action, because we are unstoppable together.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening to Up or Out with Connie. If you like what you hear and would like to be a guest, email the team at bookme@uporout.com. Learn how you can activate your power at activatemypower.com. We'll see you over there. Activate your power and be unstoppable together.